Okay, I've been making progress on the Street Fight World game. I guess for anyone who's still interested in it. A really interesting character is commenting on my videos that are related to programming. I've also done a guitar video recently about my collection of guitars that actually had a very negative comment where someone insulted me, claiming that everything I had was junk and that I had a whole lot of nothing, stuff like that. Okay, so totally different thing. Anyway, back on programming, I've actually been testing out different ways of getting the stuff done the way I want it to. I've done a lot of changes to the code. Right now I'm working on the collisions between the characters. If you can see, I really don't know how well. I'm pretty sure you can read this though. If you notice, I'm using the variables instead of player 0x or player 0y coordinates. I've integrated the variables, and that's because the characters can move now. So just a little beginning here. I'm going to go ahead and save, compile, and here we have one of the newer backgrounds that I'm doing. I've simplified the backgrounds slightly, a little bit more, to add more room for more ROM space for graphics for the characters, but also to allow for use of the player 1, player 0, and player 1 missiles. Those will help to extend certain attacks. So if my character is doing, say Ryu here on the left is doing the Hadouken fireball, psychic attack fireball, whatever you want to call it, he can then project the fireball, and he won't need a missile. I mean, I guess I could use the missile for that, and it wouldn't flicker at all. But of course, the fireball would look like a couple of squares. It would look like a shaped missile kind of thing going on. Whereas the fireball I've made is a small sprite, which looks a lot better. Anyway, so here's the character moving. You can see that Ryu is moving now, and so is little Terry Bogard there, and the animations are working. See, they're colliding. The collision detection is on. I've got the left side of the screen there. Now notice how he stopped moving. I'm still pressing left. What I've done is I've made it so that they won't continue to animate like they're jumping or moving or whatever. Well, of course, if he jumps, it's still going to work. But I mean, the little hop that he's got there for his step, his little hop step, stops once he's at that border. And this is how it is for Bogard here too. He will stop right there. And of course, and I'm pressing left still. So see there, I'm pressing right for the player 1, and I'm holding on to it, but you see he's not continually hopping. So it kind of cancels out. Once he's there, and it cancels out that motion. That way you're not just, that way he's not just continuously looping the animation when he's right up against the little border of the screen. So we've got some hopping going on here. I really like how they look. I think it looks great. This is a new background, and it's funny, right when I made this background, like the day that I made this background, I used something called PF heights, where you can, you decide the overall width of a row, okay? And what I was using before was the 23 row super chip backgrounds, and that's memory intensive. It takes up a lot of ROM space, but also to use no blank lines with that, you lose the player 0 missile, and I wanted to have that player 0 missile to use for certain punches and kicks that use an extension beyond the border of the 8 pixel wide sprite. So to keep that player 0 missile, I went ahead and switched over to PF heights and then eliminated the no blank lines. Now if you look here, you really can't tell that there are blank lines. That's because the foreground that they're standing on, the entire green looking foreground, is one row. Because with PF heights you can decide the overall pixel width of a row. The trees are a row. The branches are ball. The ball that you can put wherever you want. You can make 8 pixels wide, you can make as tall as you want. There's a reflection in the water. As you can see, the trees are coming out of the water. There's a little hint of reflection at the base of the trees in the water. And then there are like fallen leaves as little lines all around in the water. So it kind of looks like I hope you can see that. Yeah, you can see it. The little brownish kind of dashes everywhere. Now, right after I made this background, which I'm actually really happy with this background, my Roku TV updated my background to match the autumn theme. And this is what it did. Okay, now look at the water. It has dashes as ripples in the autumn water. And that's just kind of like synchronized, right? You know, like you have things synchronized, and that happened. And I'm like looking at it going, wow, I just did this, and then they just did that. Now usually I have like a cool looking Star Trek background, but this time I went ahead and left the background as it automatically updated. Now honestly, before I got this TV, I wasn't really much for these giant HD TVs, and my second daughter, before she went to college, she worked and was in school and stuff, got some money gathered up and decided she wanted this 55-inch Roku smart TV. Then when she left to college, she sold the TV to me, so I ended up with this TV. And before the Roku TV, of course, I was, I don't really want, you know, a giant HD TV. I didn't really care that much. But then after I got it, I realized, hey, I can use this for a ton of stuff. It makes a really great video game monitor. It's a 4K TV, so it does high resolution. And it's just been very helpful. It's been a really great tube. So, this is one of the backgrounds. I can cycle through the backgrounds. My characters are moving. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and change and show the other backgrounds because I've updated each of them. Now, of course, I've added more code to get stuff going on here. The joystick the joysticks have both had variables assigned to them to allow for movement. Here's another background I did, and I like it. I mean, it's a helicopter. Now this one, you can see where PF heights is being used, and blank lines are present. The row of color that's the yellow dividing line is a row. It's one continuous row. It's just one activated row in the middle, but that length from bottom to top, that's one row. Now, the spot where the boxes are that say US on them, those are PF heights single pixel wide rows. And so what I did was, because I'm using a method of layering backgrounds, I added a solid color to where the letters were, and that kind of makes it look kind of like a wooden box or something like that. And then the helicopter is several layers. It uses the ball colors to add some extra definition. The rotor on the top has a ball that's in the middle to add more detail, and then there's a green wider ball in the cockpit to add that divide in the middle. And then it's a combination of several different layerings of color to get it to look the way it does. I had considered using PF line to animate the propeller. So I would be removing the propeller, the green line that's the propeller at the top of the helicopter, and then adding a PF line little calculation there to make that propeller constantly shrink and grow to make it look like it's spinning. And I might try that later. It will add that extra kind of feeling of animation in the background, like something's going on. That led me to another idea where I had considered one of the biggest setbacks of the Atari 2600, the VCS, when you're dealing with these games, is that there's no fonts. Like, okay, you know, if you're aware of how old 8-bit computers are, like the Coco, the TRS-80 color computer, or the Atari 8-bit lineup of computers, the 400, 800, XL, XE line of computers, a lot of those 8-bit cool Commodore 64, they all have their own fonts built into their ROM. So when the system ROM boots up, and usually you have BASIC on board. I think with the 400, 800 you had to have a BASIC cartridge, but then on the XE, XLs they had built-in BASIC. The color computer TRS-80 has built-in BASIC, but then when you use a cartridge to attach a disk drive, it has extended BASIC on that cartridge as a ROM, and I have that. I have on my Coco that's in front of my TV a cartridge that gives me extended BASIC, all the books for it and stuff, and of course I can save my little creations and games to disks. Actually, making disks for the color computer is very easy with an MS-DOS compatible disk drive. So you can just use a simple program to make disks for it straight from ROMs. So I actually have several disk games for my TRS-80 color computer. That's a little off subject. The point I'm trying to make is that there's no font other than the score. So if you want words and letters and things like that, then you need to come up with a way to do that. Well, it dawned on me, and I actually hinted at this long ago, but then I kind of went back into this idea where using PF heights to make smaller rows, and then commanding those rows with PF H line or PF V line, which are PF playfield horizontal lines that you plug in the places for them on your screen. So you can do PF pixel, PF H line, or PF V line, and then you plug in the X starting point, the Y point, and the finishing X starting point to make a horizontal line. Of course, with a Y, the Y-axis, you would start with a beginning Y point, a X point, and then a finishing Y point. And those you can use those commands to write letters. So you could use that if you wanted to make small statements. For instance, you've got a sprite of a head that's got a little moving mouth, and you've got a little word balloon. Well, in that word balloon, you could center some 1 pixel wide lines, and then write words. And of course, you have to deal with the cycles that it will take within that loop. You don't want to try to jam a whole bunch of action on the screen when something like that's happening, but it is something that could be done. So you're not going to have, a huge alphabet with symbols and numbers that you can just use readily, but you can write letters on the screen. I just love how these guys move. I'm really, really pleased with it. Now, Ryu, he goes in 5 pixel increments when he does his little moving hop, and I decided as I was tweaking Mr. Bogard here's moves that he actually does a 6 pixel hop, because he's slightly taller and his movement, like his legs, just seem to work better. Now, I've been working on the collision detection, and that's something that I've coded today. As you can see, when he runs into him, it knocks him back just a little, and then now he's at the edge. Note that he's not knocking him into the edge there. Okay, so Ryu there is able to. Now, what this is eventually going to be is going to make it so that when you collide with the other person, there's a brief instance of time where you can press the opposite direction and the fire button to throw the opponent. And I'm using the flip frame, the same graphic that will be used for the character jumping and then flipping over the other character as the throwing frame. So when your character gets thrown, they'll just use that. You have to recycle your frames if you can. And so next I'm going to show that. First I'm going to show my other two backgrounds, and then I'll show those newer graphics. Now they're not every one of them plugged in to their little placeholders within the program itself, but I can show them in my paint program. So here's the other one. This one might go. I might put a different screen in here, but this was supposed to be like a Arizona, South, like New Mexico, Southwestern America style kind of desert background. And I've got the single row PF Heights drawing what appears to be kind of like little cacti, a foreground with a fence, possibly like a deck or a road or something going on there, and then in the background we have power lines and buildings. And this is all a concoction of the ball, sprite, and background rows that are particular length. So we look the building and the blue of the building and the blue of each of the power poles are the width of that row. Then, because I have a second layer that's overlapping, the top has the 1 pixel wide rows creating the power lines. Then the ball is used. Because the ball is the background color, then in one frame the building or the right side building is being made, and then in the second frame the shadow of the building is made with the ball. So, but because they're different lengths, so that's kind of a trick that was done there. I also used borders, and the borders help to encapsulate the screen. What I might do is also add a score bar color that will expand the screen downward. Now I'm using 84 lines per screen, and when you use PF Heights, if you decide that you want an 80, an 82, 84, 86, or up to an 88 row screen, that's up to you, but it does cut into the time that you're dealing with it. The cycles will be used up more. And so 84 is a nice comfortable point where the screen is somewhat letterboxed, but it's got room. So this is that background, and of course the characters, I'm testing what they look like moving back and forth and just seeing what kind of artifacts or ghosting. This has helped to nearly eliminate all ghosting. So that's something that's going to be gone with this method. Also, I haven't blocked the very right side, so as you can see, Ryu can actually walk through, and I can use that to change places. Now what's going to come up soon is something that checks on their placement, and if they're on opposite sides of each other, they are reflected. So my REFP1, REFP0 will activate a reflection mode, and then that will be in front of the main loop. So once that little checker says, oh, and I'll have a variable tied to it. I'll have whatever, I'll just pick one of my massive list of variables and say if that variable is 0, then they're facing each other in the normal way, and then if it's 1, then their sprites are reflected. And then if you suppose you use Ryu to jump over, once he's 1 pixel past the center point of Bogard's sprite, they will both reflect. And of course this is how, when they're jumping over each other, their bodies seem to turn to face the opponent. So okay, that's that background. Now I've done all this before, so this isn't anything, I'm not inventing this stuff now. This was all done with the Street Fight World DPC Plus game. I'm actually looking forward to programming fireballs and special moves. And in this one, a charge attack. Oh wait, that's wrong. In this one, a charge attack is going to be used. I used charge attacks before, but when I used them, they did not interrupt the other attacks. So when you try to do a charge attack to get something to happen, then the attack was, oh yeah, this is the new one. The attack was interrupted. You could still attack. So suppose you press down to charge for an attack. Well, if you press to hold the button to charge, you would still do the attack. So what I'm going to be doing is there'll be a period of time where when you hold down, it's very brief, but it will lock you into that charging mode. And then after that charging mode has exceeded a certain time, you can then press up and the button, and then that will create the, like for instance, Guile's, his little flip kick that he does. Now, I have omitted the rising tackle move from my Barry Togard character here. He's not going to have that, but he does have lots of other moves, and I'm still drawing all of his sprites. I have all of the sprites drawn for Ryu. Now this is a street with a background. We've got what might be a waterway that's in between the foreground and the skyline. The skyline is obviously a whole bunch of buildings with some light on the side. The smaller building is made with the ball, and I had considered in this instance possibly using a PFH line to create logs like in Frogger, or objects that move through that waterway on the background. Now I might also tweak these colors if I can to get a little bit more not such a like a gray kind of light coloring. I really ideally would like to try to have the water look more like water, and of course whatever color would do that would change the face of the buildings and the color of the street. So this was a careful balance to get the street to kind of look street colored, to get the street markings to be yellowish colored, and then still retain some of the details. And this is a concoction here. None of these are single screens. They're all at least one screen. So I'm using two screens here that are layered over each other, and then I'm using different PF heights constructs to create the rows. And my two goals are to, as much as possible, eliminate that it has blank lines. Now in this one there are a couple blank lines you can see that are in between rows, and I tried to use them as parts of the backgrounds rather than letting them, you know, control the background. So the buildings are one row. Of course the foreground is a row. You know, this is the way you can make backgrounds, and even though you have those blank lines, you can still control it. PF Heights is a very powerful tool where you have 11 or 12 rows, but every row you tell it how wide each row is. I can go ahead and show an example of that real quick for anyone that might want to know how to use that. If I scroll down here, my first call out for the background, this is the background you just looked at. Here is the PF Heights instruction, and then each row. The top one has to be 8 no matter what, and the top one is going to be my hit bars. So those top ones will actually be drawn in later with PFH line, and the PFH line will coincide with being hit. To shrink that horizontal line, it will be a hit bar. It'll be your hit points. So each of these rows is how wide that row is. So if you look here at the bottom, it says 2. That means this row is 2 playfield pixels wide, which are a little thicker than normal pixels. And as you go up this, each is their own defining. Well, there's 1. So we know that a few rows up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's this row here. And you can see that that's 1 pixel wide, playfield pixel wide. So if I go in there and show it again, you can see the row right above them that is 1 pixel wide. Now, so if you want to make just a place for them to walk, suppose you want to just make a road, and you're thinking, oh well, I have to have lines running through everything. You don't. You can just make the row that your road is going to be, however wide you want it to be, and then make it that color, and it's all the way across it. Now, if you use color definitions, if you use playfield colors, PF colors is what it's called, you can only define either of those one time in your game. So I'm not doing that. I'm actually doing single color backgrounds. That way I can change the PF heights definition per screen. So if you look, Colu BK-A2, that's my background. That's a dark blue. Colu PF-12, that's that darker yellow color. That's one instance. The second instance of this background is the same background color and then a different playfield color. Now, of course, because I'm using 2 colors and overlapping them, a third usable color is present where those are combined. Now, that coupled with controlling the width of each row, you can come up with all kinds of really neat, fancy things. Suppose you want a table. Well, that row where the table is, you can have be 1 playfield pixel. Then you want the legs to be kind of long. You can have those be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pixels long. And then that row that will come up with the legs, you'll just activate, 1 block for each of those legs in your playfield art. But that block will appear as 8 pixels long on your screen. Now, the trick here is when you add up each of the PF heights, they cannot be more than your screen's rows, your screen's lines. So in this case, I can't exceed 88. And that's where I said earlier, I've come up with that careful medium of 84 lines on my screen. So every one of these screens is, every one of these definition PF heights rows is going to equal 84. So see, notice here, 43. That means this bottom row, even though it's just 1 row, is 43 pixels wide. It's a gigantic wide block. That's what they're standing on. It makes it easy to make really cheap cost effective, I guess is a better way to put it. As far as ROM space goes, this is extremely low usage of ROM space because you're only activating 11 or 12 rows and you're only defining each row and you're only using 1 color. So all that is, it's the cheapest you can do. Now one cheaper would be that I don't overlap 2 backgrounds, but then I'd be stuck in 1 color. And that's it. So I want 3 colors for my backgrounds. Now my favorite ones are the helicopter and the autumn one. So if I pick the autumn one here, which I just think it turned out, it's a magical picture. I just love it. I love how this one turned out. It's got your foreground that's kind of a darker grassy green. It's got a fence back there that's one of these ones you see in reserves and parks and stuff that's got a like wooden posts with a kind of a wire connecting thing. I love how this looks. Nothing in this picture says, oh, there's blank lines everywhere. In fact, the blank lines are so well hidden that you really don't know that blank lines are present. So I didn't use no blank lines. Instead, I used PF heights to control the height of every row. The trees are 1 row. The green they're standing on is 1 row. The posts for the fence is 1 row. Each of the little floating leaves in the water are 1 playfield pixel wide, and you can see it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 sections of 1 playfield pixel wide each. It's really fun. It's really fun to come up with backgrounds like that. Okay, so you've seen more of the game and where it's heading. Now I'm going to show you the artwork that is going to be in this. So I'm going to go over here I've been working on Barry here, Barry Togard, and what I've done is I've divided the folders so that there are the combined, which are the images I draw, and then the separated ones, which are the ones that will be imported directly into the game. Okay, so if I look here, I'll show combined because that's what they're going to look like when they're on the screen. Okay, so here we have his block. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the zoom grid here. So here's what he'll look like when he's got his arm up to block an attack. And if I want to just kind of give an idea of the animation, I can pick, there's his step, and then I'm going to back up. So here we go. Okay, there we go. I can also pick his normal standing animation. There we go. And that's him, see? He just kind of scoots back and pops his arm up to block and attack. Something I hadn't programmed in Street Fight World yet. I had considered just leaving it out of the game, but I think blocking is an important part of a fighting game. Okay, here's him ducking. That's him. Now this frame will also be him jumping. So when he jumps, he's going to tuck his legs up like that, and that's going to work for his jumping and for his ducking frame. Here we have the duck kick. That will also be the jump kick. Same thing. So yeah, we've got his jump kick there. Now, of course, right here, coming out of his leg will be his player 1 missile. And it will be that tall, it will be 8 pixels wide, and then there will be 2 instances of it. One red and one blue, excuse me, and then white is the after color. So, if I'm careful, I should be able to fit some red in there to represent his shoe with enough room for some white to pop up, and then also have the blue for his leg. And then that's all going to be a missile sticking out right here. Okay, now let's look at it. That's him in the air, that's him kicking, or that's him squatting on the ground, that's him kicking. Now, what I really wanted to do was put a star or even a Fuji Atari symbol on his coat back there, but there's just not enough room. Now, I could exaggerate the red jacket and make it take up a whole bunch more space, and I could probably squeeze a Fuji symbol in there. I might, just because of how cool that would be, but that's for later. Right now it's done. Okay, we have, let's see, him falling. That's him, and I had to do them getting knocked down. Now, I'm not doing, you know, obviously I'm not doing, you know, like 36 pixel wide knockdown pictures, because, you know, I can't. I could make a crappy low resolution one that is zoomed in 16 or 32 pixels wide, but then I decided no, I'm going to go with just having them as though they fell lengthwise. So they fall down, it's actually him, that's him laying on the ground. You can see his knees, his shoes, his arms, his chest. His head is back, his brim of his hat is up, and his nose is popping up in the middle there. So he has been knocked down. And so if I want to show here, that's him knocked down, and oh, I just got back up. There we go. And of course the feet would be lined up. This isn't showing it as it would be on the screen because the feet would be lined up. Okay, we've got him doing his gliding punch, where he flies towards them with this punch. And of course now his fist, his arm and his fist are going to be a missile. Okay. Then we've got his normal kick. A missile will be right here. And then another one will be right here to be his shoe. Okay, red and blue. I might leave a blank space on the shoe to represent the white patch or the heel if possible. His punch you've already seen, that's his punch, and I've already shown it with the missile sprite filling in for the arm and the fist. And here's his wave. That's where he punches the ground and fire comes out and comes at you. I guess it would be the equivalent of Ryu or Ken's Hadouken Fireball. He punches the ground. Now, there's another kick that I wanted to work into this that he does in the game, where he does this really bombastic, kind of jump, spinny, you know, flamboyant looking kick. I want to throw that in there, but to all you SNK, King of Fighters, or Fatal Fury fans out there, I'm sorry, but I have, for reasons of realism, and probably my excuse could be for saving ROM space, I am omitting the rising tackle move. It's not going to be in this game. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to check out the Ryu, because he's got a bunch of stuff now. He's really cranked up. Okay, here's Ryu's block. His stance is a little different. He's got his arm up. Okay, so to show what this might look like, here's him standing, and then, oh, he blocked. So he's like, boop. See? There we go. Then we have the dragon uppercut, of course. Now I might make his mouth a little smaller. My son said I should leave his mouth like that, but we'll see what it looks like on the screen. I like it. I think it looks great. Here's him ducking down. That will also be him jumping. Here's his duck kick, which I've already done. That's also going to be his jump kick. Now, here's him flipping. You see he's got his knees tucked in, his arms are down near his knees, his head's tilted downward, which, you know, because he's flipped upside down, his headband is hanging down. Okay, this will also be, like I said, the frame used when he is thrown. So when he's thrown, he's going to flip over like that and hit the ground, and when he jumps in the air and does a flip, then he's going to do that. So we can do this. Kind of see him flipping. Okay. His fireball, Hadouken stance. Okay. Here's his kick. This is him knocked out. Okay. His punch, which we've already seen. That's his helicopter kick, and of course it's going to mirror. So I can do the horizontal thing. We'll do Control M and see there. And of course he's going to have a missile that is his leg sticking out. Okay. We've already seen his step and everything. So yeah, that's most of his stuff, if not all of it, now. So, both characters are nearly complete. All I have left is maybe one or two more of the Barry Togard moves to throw in there. So yeah. Now, since I've been doing this, my son has gotten interested in programming, and I guess he's watched my video and he on how to change sprites in Stella. We went through certain games in Stella, and we examined, using the tilde key, the game in operation to see the assembly code in action, and we decided to edit our own games. And we found that a couple of games are really fun and easy to edit. One of them that's easy is Adventure. And what I mean by easy to edit is that the sprites are almost always loaded to where you can find them and edit them and save your changes. Okay, so Pacman's one that's very easy to edit. We both edited Pacman. Donkey Kong's easy to edit. H.E.R.O was one that I was actually surprised that is very easy to edit, has all of the sprites just hanging right out to grab. So I'm going to show you my version of H.E.R.O. This kind of, I was playing with my son, and he had his laptop in here, and we were both editing the games together. He was editing H.E.R.O while I was editing it, and so we basically piggybacked off each other. He said he wanted to do grenades instead of sticks of dynamite, so I adopted that and made my own grenades. I decided to make the game a jetpack game instead of a helicopter game. And I actually changed every single sprite in the game H.E.R.O. So I'm calling it Jetpack H.E.R.O now. And I went ahead and put it with my games. Here it is. Now, as you can see, the life characters are all jetpack. He has a jetpack. His bombs are grenades. The explosions are different. The bad guys are different. The person you save is different. I changed every sprite in the entire game. Now, it doesn't say copyright anymore. If you look at the bottom of the screen, it actually says Papa. That's my name, my username, and what I get called. And then it says, instead of Activision, it says A-Vision. So I turned that to say A-Vision. Okay. Now, the bad guys are all different. The bats are now little, like, horned demons. There are other jetpackers that are one of the bad guys. The snake arm thing that comes out of the wall is now a, like, spinning, there it is, little spinning blade device. I changed the lanterns. The spiders are now another spinning blade device. Okay, see, there's one of them. And the person you rescue is different looking now. So, you know, like I said, I changed every sprite. I'll go ahead and give it a try. See? Now that was a spider, but now it's a spinning blade. I also made it so that the score does not pop up when you blow up walls, and when the score pops up for bad guys, it is a golden coin. So you don't see the score. There's the winged monster with little horns. That was a bat. Oh, there's my death scene there. He's got the jetpack now. As you can see, when he flies the jetpack, you can see the jet shooting out the back of it there. And as he runs, I changed the running animation. His legs are bulkier. His mask, he has a mask that's a little different than what the old one looked like. There we go. The lantern is different. So as you can see, this is now Jetpack H.E.R.O. I have made a custom modded H.E.R.O game with every sprite in the entire game different. I love how when you blow up that wall with him right next to the wall, it actually blows him up too. I think that's very creative. And H.E.R.O is one of the best games for the Atari 2600. It actually has components that are better than the computer versions of the game. Okay, now the way they're better is they use a gradient color for some of the bad guys. Now, in the home PC versions of these games, there is no gradient color. There's no gradient color for the bad guys. They're just solid color bad guys for the most part. They have more advanced backgrounds, higher resolution with more lines and just more kind of good looking. But I don't think the backgrounds really suffer being these, line row amalgamations for the 2600. The 2600 actually has better sprite graphics than most of the computer versions of this game. Like I pointed out, the color is gradient. You have dark brown, then medium brown, then light brown for the little spinning thing, and then the pole that it's attached to is gray. I didn't change any of the colors for the sprites. I just changed how they were drawn. Okay, so I used what was already there. And I think that H.E.R.O is actually comparable to, especially in gameplay and functions and mechanics, to the, higher end computers, and it even looks better than them with regards to the enemy characters and the good guy. So sometimes Atari can actually have somewhat of an advantage over those. For instance, you might be able to have 4 sprites on a Atari 800 or a 400 game, but if those sprites are stuck being single color, well, the 2600 can actually do color rows very easily. So when you look at the character he saves, she has color rows for her legs, color rows for her midsection, color row for her face, color row for her hair. See? And, I changed everything, the explosions and everything. So this is my modded Jetpack H.E.R.O. Okay, I also modded Pacman. I'll go ahead and show that real quick. And this one, for now, I'm just calling it Pacman Edit. Okay, here we go. Now, as you can see, his mouth resembles the arcade Pacman. He's got the eyes like the arcade Pacman. Now, my son, in his version of it, he changed the eyes of the ghosts. So these, I haven't changed them yet in this version, but we changed the eyes of the ghost. I must have a different version that's in my Stella folder still, that I haven't moved over yet. But we changed the eyes so they would not be perfect squares, they would be more circular in appearance. So as you can see, you can actually make Pacman look more like the arcade by editing it. What a fun game. I really, really like this game. When people complained saying that this game sucked or that it ruined, Atari for people and stuff, I never got that. I think this is a fantastic game. I'd even go as far as to say that I like it better and have had more fun with it than the original Pacman, because it's easier to play. And so, as you can see, it's different. The one thing I'd like to do, if I could, is change the dots so that they're thin. Even if they were more spaced out, I would rather them be smaller dots, because we always called it Pencil Pacman because it looked like he was chomping on little pencils or something. They don't look like dots. If I could change it, I might be able to, then I will, but for now they're stuck like that. So then I also changed Donkey Kong rather extensively. I wanted my gorilla to look more like Donkey Kong, or more like a cartoon than a gingerbread man. So here's my DK edit, and as you can see, Donkey Kong's up there and he looks a lot different. Girl looks different. And you saw me edit the flames. I actually edited them a little bit more. Turn the sound down a little bit. It's kind of grinding. There we go. Oh, now it's too quiet. There we go. Now I'd like to change Mario, but he doesn't show up usually. I haven't seen him in the sprite rows yet. So maybe there's a thing you have to do to get him to pop up, but I think he's in data. So now the flame guys have little fiery things coming off their heads. What I used to do when I was a kid, and I remembered it when I played this earlier, is that, I would trap the flame on a small section. I would try to jump over them, and let's see if I can do that here. There. See, now he's trapped. Well, he actually hit me, but he was trapped over on the right side. So now my Donkey Kong's different, my Daisy is different, my flames are different, and so that's an edited Donkey Kong game. And you can change lots of stuff. I thought about redrawing the dragon in Adventure, because I never really liked how that dragon looked. I didn't like the graphics. The game's fun, but you know, it could definitely use some better graphics. Now, a lot of these games, you're going to find that the graphics are trapped in code, and you can't really get in there and change them. Now, a lesson for people that I'll show today for when editing these games that you might not know about is how to copy what you've done. Okay, suppose you want to, like in the instance of H.E.R.O, I made one of the bad guys into another jetpack person, and he's like a bad guy jetpack person. So in jetpack H.E.R.O, I'll go here, and I'll start the game up. Okay, we'll just get moving. I think in this next level, one of them is loaded. So I'll go ahead and tilde key here in a second. Okay, I'll try it real quick. Not sure if he's here yet though, we'll see. Sometimes you have to wait until the bad guy is loaded on the screen before you can get to him. So here's the graphics, there's the grenades, the explosion, there's the girl that you saved, there's my monsters. There's the coins, the levels. Okay, there's the character with the jetpack. Yeah, it's not loaded yet. There's the font. There's where I changed the graphics. You can change the numbers in case you want them to look different. You can make them more like kind of stencil looking numbers if you want. You could make them more bit kind of looking letter numbers in case that's what you like. Yeah, I think it hasn't loaded them yet. So yeah, I need to get a little further in the game before I can show this. So I guess the next level. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the tilde key now. I'm in the game, and that bad guy should be popping up somewhere in here. There he is. Here's my bad guy. Now, here's what I'm trying to show you. Over here on the right side where you've got your number rows, okay, well, suppose you don't want to just redraw these number rows over and over and over again. So I notice how I did several of him. Now what has changed is he has this thing that looks like it's spinning, and he has an effect like he's got fire coming out of his jetpack. But to start with, I copied each of these sprites over and over again. Excuse me. The way to copy them is go up here and click a row, and then right click on your numbers and change toggle graphics binary, toggle GFX binary, hex. Now these are the hexadecimal representations in a string of 8 bits that represent that order of on and off. So when you look at his graphics, that row where his feet are is just 8 bits. That on and off pattern of 8 bits is 3/7 in code. So if I want to copy quickly and easily, all I have to do is type those numbers in the rows. Okay, so I'll give an example. Suppose I'm going to put these rows of feet as this second one. Well, I would just click here and then put 3/7. See how it changed it immediately? Okay, you can do that with any sprite, anywhere in the game. Okay, now what I really want it to be 3/6, so I'll put it back. There we go. But because it's a pattern, so if you look here, 3736 B6 EC, 3736, then 366D, that's because there's an extra dot right here for whatever he's got in his hand. But you can copy very easily just typing in these numbers. You don't have to go in and actually redraw every row. If you've already drawn something, for instance this one, I can copy this down here and then go in and change the little tiny details of it. So yeah, by switching from graphics binary to hexadecimal, it can make it easier to copy code from one place to another. It's very, very easy. Okay, now my son really likes drawing the graphics in these games, and he is also programming a game using Visual Atari Basic. I put that on his laptop, and he and I have been going through the ins and outs of programming. I went ahead and put a song on there and helped him with the background and some sprite graphics and stuff so he can start programming. I actually have programmed, you know, like almost a dozen songs using Atari VCS, so I can put those songs in different games. In Titan Axe there's 5 songs, and I've recorded several other songs. I've programmed them, and I've recorded some of them. But I can drop them into the game using a few variables to control the counters and stuff. Now, a person online was showing how to do this, and then I adapted it to my own methods. So what he showed could use both channels if you wanted. I only use one channel, and the reason I do that is so if sound effects happen, they don't interrupt the music. The music can play all the time through one channel while the sound effects utilize the second channel. But also I added a couple of variables to it that allow the actual instrument to change in a pattern. And what that can do is make it so you can have a kind of a drum-like sound that's repetitious, things like that. And it's a little more advanced to do that, but your songs are going to sound a lot better. That's something you might want to try to do. So this game is progressing, and I'm really happy with how it's looking now. I especially love the little hopping animation here of the characters. And pretty soon they'll be punching, kicking, jumping, flipping, ducking, jump kicking, fireball throwing, spin, tornado kicking, and all kinds of stuff like that. This game's coming along nicely. And I've actually been thinking about what game I might make after this one's done, because I'm programming this one till it's done. After that I might make a remake of Titan Axe that uses these better graphics methods, and possibly put something like that out there. I'd really like to have a better looking, better playing Titan Axe game, maybe more of an adventure where you can go like Zelda, where you can go out the top or the right or left or bottom of the screen to different areas, maybe have multiple bad guys on the screen at one time, and just kind of tweak things, make it a more exciting game. So yeah, pretty happy with this, the way that's working. My fire button is no longer hooked up, so, but that'll be reintegrated later. There we go. For for when they're attacking each other. Now right now the green bars at the top, I guess they kind of look like trees, treetops or something. Those are actually the hit bars. And I might make them a combination of both colors. Either way though, those will be gone and will be controlled with a PFH line statement that can be easily changed based on your hit points. So when the character hits the other person, based on what hit it is, then the hit bar of the opponent will go down. Okay, I'm also going to have to integrate blocking, and so the blocking might actually introduce, you know, that variable where less damage is taken when you get hit. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I totally love this background. I might change or get rid of other backgrounds and put in different ones depending on, you know, how this progresses. But right now it's just plugging in the moves, getting the characters jumping and flipping and moving and attacking and stuff, fleshing out the game itself. And then once that's all finalized, I can, you know, deal with the backgrounds and perfect them. I've got, you know, I've got my Uno cart and my Harmony cart, and I can test them out on TV screens and stuff as I make more progress in the game. So this has been kind of a little bit of an update on Street Fight World. Maybe some boring explanations of how you can do things like this in your own Atari game. And if anybody has any questions that's watching this, if anybody's really truly interested in learning these methods or in how to do these games, I would love to answer questions. And I dedicate a lot of my time now, in my free time during the day, to programming. Sometimes I'm also playing guitar, so I have my guitar right here just kind of sitting off to the side, and if I take a break from programming, I just start playing my just for fun. So when I'm not programming, I can take a break and maybe drink some of my orange Tang drink over here and play guitar. I can program, and you know, I get a handful of hours when I'm not cleaning, doing dishes, preparing things for the kids and stuff, and then I have a little segment, maybe a couple of hours there, 3 hours at the most, maybe 4 after everything's done, where I can dedicate it to programming or you know, playing guitar, maybe doing animation or something like that. But so my attention lately though has been more directed towards programming. I'd like to get this game. Now that brings me to the point I was going to make earlier, is this creative guy that is, he makes Atari-like games using a different programming language that are meant to be played on computers. And so I guess they kind of look Atari-ish, maybe with simpler graphics and stuff like that. And he's left some pretty creative and maybe, you know, kind of inspirational, fun comments that go along with some of these videos. Now he mentioned that it might be that the 2600 Plus can only support 4 or 8K cartridges. And so again, back in the negative, that's something that would exclude me, because I can't do that with a game this complex with this much graphics. I can't just, you know, try to jam it into 8K. It's not going to happen. So hopefully that's not how it is. And there are some 16 and 32K commercial games. And so if the thing will only support 4 and 8K cartridges and it's limited by that, then there are several games that won't work on it. I think one of the last Atari game made, which was maybe a Nolan Bushnell game or something, where this little like space dude with a lightsaber looking sword and he goes from room to room. I don't remember what it's called. It's usually a freebie on the flashbacks, so most people have probably played it. That one wouldn't work, I don't think. You know, so a handful of games are not going to work if it only supports 4 or 2, 4 or 8K cartridges or something. And I don't know if he was stating that you know, he verified that with the people making the system, or if that was just an assumption on his part, or if that information had been discussed in forum or wherever. But he did say that, and of course, as I've said through all these videos, I make 32K bank switching cartridges or 32K bank switching super chip cartridges. This one's a super chip game, so it would not work on the 2600 plus if it requires that, you know, if it requires that. So hopefully that's not where we're at with it. Okay, so hopefully if you like these videos, you'll comment, subscribe, maybe, you know, ask questions if you have any, you know, open dialogue. And I'm probably going to be a little more boring with my future videos, because I'm probably going to go into some of the coding that's going to be used to create, you know, hot oak and fireball button presses, jumping, flipping, reflecting sprites, and things like that. So once the graphics are done, I think that's you know, it's going to be a little slightly less exciting. But then of course, seeing these characters come to life, you know, in some of my upcoming videos, we're going to be seeing them jumping over each other, flipping, and punching and kicking and stuff. So I suppose that will probably be, you know, at least semi-exciting. And I also am going to be plugging in the other two characters, Chun-Li and Mai, and hopefully after all these the frames for their moves are in there, I can confidently have 4 characters and all their moves, and maybe even enough room left over for maybe one more character. 2 would be just excellent. If I could have 6 characters to choose from, that would just be great. So yeah, I'm working on collision detection, moving, trapping the characters within the screen, and let's see here. There we go. He's got kind of a, you know, and Ryu's like that. He does kind of like a little shimmy hop. When we were young, we used to make fun of it, and we would, like, you know, we would dance across the floor like that by just basically just standing with our knees pointed one way, and then we would like kind of hop a little and then turn our knees pointed the other way, and then scuttle across the floor like that. Kind of making fun of Ryu's little, and Ken, I guess. And I guess if you want to, you know, Dan's like that, Akira or whatever, Akuma, I mean, Akuma's like that. Now Sakura's not like that. She actually has more of like a guided kind of hop that's even more like Terry Bogard's little step that he does. So yeah, the game is coming along.